So it's great to see all of you here. I personally think that circularity is one of the most fascinating kind of sectors when we talk about climate. We're talking about an alternative to the linear economy models. And circular economy has models, innovations that are part of the three. The first is prolonging shelf lives of products and preserving raw materials. The second is what we know as shared economy. And of course, recycling. We're talking about all sorts of innovations in these materials, processes, infrastructures, which we will talk more about, and connectivity between stakeholders that enable materials, components, products, byproducts, and waste to be kept in use, recovered, recycled, or generated in a circular system such that waste generation is minimized and resources are optimized. This, of course, impacts immensely on the entire supply chain of pretty much any organization, any country. And just to give you a few numbers before we move on to hearing about two amazing Israeli startups in this space, we know that circular economy is a $4 trillion opportunity, but unfortunately, we have less than the world economy, which is circular. We also have 2.2 billion tons of waste, and a third of our food and less than 5% of packaging around the world is actually recycled. So the numbers are really, really low, despite the big potential. We have a few opportunities that are making this space extremely attractive. The first one is that corporates are committed to net zero, right, by 2050, and that will require a lot of recycled materials. The second one is that circular economy is not as vulnerable as other sectors to the global markets, so we will always need to recycle and find more and more solutions. Those corporates and also the largest polluters will also have to pay fines in the future if they don't align with this trend. And something that I find very fascinating is that most of the raw materials haven't been reinvented or re-innovated for years. So it allows all of us a very big opportunity to invent those new materials, and we will hear about how to do it. Lastly, two global trends that also make this opportunity more attractive today in 2022. Everyone wants transparency. Everyone needs the supply chain to be transparent. The consumers want it, and the large corporates understand it. So we are in a point of time when all the regulators, all the corporations, everyone is understanding that we need to incorporate all these 6 points in the overall activity. So I'm going to hand it to Tato to present UBQ material. I knew it's going to be a fun panel.
Can you hear it? Okay. Thank you, Shani. Thank you, everyone. You hear me well, right? Good. Okay, so UBQ Materials has developed quite an amazing technology that enables us to take household waste, your garbage bin, your bag, with everything in it, the organics, the food, the banana peels, the chicken bones, the hamburger leftovers, the diapers, the pizza cardboard, all the mixed plastics, those that can be recycled and those that cannot be recycled because, for example, they have multi-layers. All these materials will eventually end up in landfills. UBQ is taking that residual waste and converting those into a new material that didn't exist before, which we call UBQ material. That material is a thermoplastic. In other words, it's a new kind of plastic that is entirely made out of oil, as opposed to common-based plastics that are entirely made out of oil or crude oils. So we are basically taking materials that would end up in landfills, and we'll talk about landfills later and the hazards that these monuments of waste bring to the environment. And we're taking that waste, avoiding the landfilling, and bringing them back to life in a circular way to create a material that can be used by industry, the existing industry, with no changes, no adaptations, a material that can swap the existing oil-based resins with these new circular, climate positive material that will, in a way, support that circular way of life that we're all looking to live in for us and the future generations. That's what UVQ is all about.
So now, Oshik, if you could please tell us about HomeBiogas.
Okay. Hi, nice to see you all. I tell you a bit about HomeBiogas. I'm Oshik, one of 3 founders and the CEO of the company. At HomeBiogas, we are actually doing something very unique. We create systems that treat organic waste on site. Those systems are standalone, and they doesn't need like infrastructure, and they work like trash can. You throw the waste into them, but instead of collecting the waste that eventually ends up in a landfill mostly, we treat it on site, so we save the need for collection. And not only that we treat it on site, we also turn it to something positive, which is energy. So we take waste, which is a problem, and turn it into clean renewable energy, which is a solution. And currently today, we have systems, solutions for households. We have solutions for small farmers and for businesses, for hotels, dining rooms. We are going to install the first system in a military base here in Israel. We just finished an installation in a hotel. We are about to install the first of its kind biogas system in a multi-family house in New Jersey, and the list is going on. We have users in more than 100 countries, which is pretty amazing in such a short term. We are working through Africa, Southeast Asia, Central America, South America, United States, Europe, and more. So nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be with both of you here because I think in the climate tech ecosystem, we have kind of like the pioneering companies that went through all of the phases before it everyone was talking about it. And I read a report talking about how we see a rise in carbon technologies in the past half of 2022. It went up 8x than last year. So everyone talking about carbon capturing and carbon offsetting, and it's great, and we will talk about it too. But I want to talk about methane, okay? Methane, which is much more not polluting. It contributes more to the warming of our planet. And I think that it is time to talk about, like, we've created a carbon sector, a methane technologies sector. Can you please elaborate how your technologies deal with that, how they help reduce it? So, maybe share what are the risks if we're not going to take care of the methane implications that we have around the world.
Okay, so methane is our game. Methane as waste can be a problem, but it's also can be a resource. Methane is a very strong greenhouse gas. It contributes 80 times more than carbon dioxide, and yes, it is a problem. And on our category, actually food waste is responsible for more than 50% of the methane production. And methane, if you don't collect it and it go to the atmosphere, it's actually collect a lot of heat. The methane know how to absorb heat. And it's also a solution because if you capture it on site, you can use it as a resource, as energy. It's the same as natural gas that we are drilling from the sea. But in the sea, it took it 20 billion years to produce it. And if you do it on site, on the right way, it will take 2-3 days and up to 2 weeks. So yeah, it is a problem, but it's definitely demanding from the waste management industry to change, to adopt new technology, new ways of treating waste that eventually will take it out from landfills.
Yeah, and we also know that in COP26 there was the pledge. How do you think companies, and maybe Tato, you also have something to add in the previous question, but how do you think companies can leverage on all of these commitments of corporates and countries and organizations to this pledge?
Okay. Methane is very important for all of us to understand. Methane is an extremely powerful gas. It's 86 times more powerful than CO2. And methane is basically emitted by landfills, by livestock, and by the oil and gas industry. Okay? The big problem that we have with methane is that because of its potency, it accelerates enormously the climate change that we live in. And if we do attack that gas, which is 86 times more powerful than CO2, over a 20-year period, if you measure that impact over a 10-year period, it can be even 120 times more powerful than CO2. So if we attack that gas, we have a good chance to support the transition of new technologies and adaptations in the industry to overcome the urgent situation we live in, which is dropping greenhouse gases dramatically. The connection with UBQ is that by saving landfill waste, just like Oshik is doing with the organic part that you will compost in your house, is that all that mass of materials that end up in landfills, by the way, 95% of the household waste in the world end up in landfills. And that is equivalent to the weight, 5 times the weight of all humanity together. Put them in and weigh people 5 times. 10 million jets together, that's the weight of the waste that will mostly end up in landfill. And when organic matter, which is the majority of the waste, it's about 80% of the waste is organic matter. By the way, paper and cardboard are also organic streams. They are made out of wood. So all these materials will decompose anaerobically and create that methane, which is extremely powerful. So we need to collect that material before it ends up in landfill. That's exactly what UBQ is doing. So by taking the waste and avoiding landfill, we're basically saving per ton of UBQ about 12 tons of CO2 equivalent. CO2 equivalent is the currency that we use to convert the impact of methane and CO2. So every ton of UBQ material, which looks at little pellets of plastic, again, it's a thermoplastic, it's not oil-based, it's made out of waste. That material will save 12 tons of CO2 equivalent, which is about 1,000 trees collecting from the environment the CO2 that we save. So 1 ton of UBQ is about 1,000 trees. So imagine if we could really deploy this technology, Oshik's technology, further into the future. Just by buying a product that is made out of UBQ, you're basically doing something good to the environment, because you're not only using a material that will save the emissions of the plastics that are quite dramatic, but you're also saving the emissions of the landfill. So it's a climate positive material, and by buying a UBQ product or a product made with UBQ, you as customers, companies, manufacturers, brands can make an impact. And those are the decisions that we need to take as consumers in order to support these type of technologies into the future that can change the world. So we're here to help us, all of us, transition into a better future. And by the way, you will not have to pay a penny more. That is very important. If you want to bring out a technology that creates impact, you have to be competitive. I believe that in the case of HomeBiogas it is, because I know their business plan. I know that in UBQ we're extremely competitive, and that is why the demand of our material is increasing dramatically. And one last thing I want to tell you, because I don't want to forget, is that all these booths, all these stands, you see all these panels here, they are, everything here, all the boards that you see around, everything, all the construction here is made with UBQ material.
Yes, so it was a dream of ours.
Yes,
come true.
Right. So basically the producer of these boards, which is Palram, a very big industry in the north of Israel, instead of using a plastic called PVC, they're introducing UBQ. So you can see the UBQ, you can touch it, it's there. That's the material we're using. And basically, this forum has a tremendous positive impact in terms of environment. We shows that when you use UBQ in construction or other industries, you can make an impact. And this is the first exhibition in the world, by the way, using UBQ. And we're proud because now we can deploy many other events over in the world with our materials. One last thing, these boards, one last thing, these boards will be taken back to the factory, will be recycled and brought back into material. So this is really a truly circular solution, okay?
Yeah, it's a very tangible example. Thank you for mentioning it. We were mentioning it for so long and happening, so it's not working. You touched a little bit about the demand from the consumers and the brands. And Oshik, also you work with the consumers who use biogas. We as investors, we're invested in a few circular economy companies, but also in a few VCs in the space. And I think that what is interesting is to see that the LPs of these VCs are the largest Fortune 100 companies, looking to not just invest in the funds, but also to find new solutions, which goes again with the commitments to net zero that is coming from consumers. Can you please share about both of you, about your experiences with this dynamic between the demand from consumers, what you see your customers who are corporates are looking for, and how do you think also other companies in this space who are just starting can approach it and maybe save some hiccups on the way?
So we can see definitely that the awareness for looking for circular solution is raising tremendously in the last 2-3 years. Organizations that actually work with end users, that organizations that provide goods, understand that the end user now care about where those material came from and not what will be afterwards. We see that we can give solutions to places that produce food waste, like restaurant chains. We actually published a few months ago, 2 months ago, that we signed an agreement with the largest fast food chain, the most known food chain in the world. And their interest is, of course, to treat the organic waste on site, to reduce the operational cost, and also to create energy, and of course also because they understand that they must reduce their carbon footprint, they must show that they are in the direction of reducing waste. So yeah, we see a growing the demand, and I think there are many opportunities for new entrepreneurs, new startups. I think the world is actually changing. I think if you are here, so probably you have interest in this field. There are many opportunities, and especially in Israel, as Israelis, I think we have the ability to bring innovation that is changing the way that people treat waste. There are so much room for innovation, for new innovation, and this is the time. This is the time. The conditions are there, and I think there is no other way.
Definitely. Tato, do you want to add?
Yeah, the capital markets are all into sustainable, climate positive, and circular solutions. That's not the case 10 years ago, not even 4 years ago. It's an enormous shift. It happens because we're seeing it, we're feeling it, we as consumers. We're demanding a change. We want a better future for us and our kids. And also corporations have to have certain commitments that they need to abide, and the time frames are very short. So in order to deploy this type of impact, they need new technologies. And that is why the market is desperately looking for technologies that make an impact, that make a change, okay? And you see the money flowing into this sector. So if you are an entrepreneur or have any idea, The sector of environmental impact is extremely flooded with money today, and they all see that it's an industry that will come into the future because in a way we're going to be changing the old economy with a new economy, and this is where you invent the new systems, the new materials, the new products, the new applications, and if you are left on the back, you're history, and we're at the forefront of change, and money is there.
Right, and I'm glad you mentioned money, because I think that's one of the interesting things for me personally about circular economy. And just to make it clear, it's a business, and I think up us to create new business models as we develop it, and entrepreneurs finding new materials, hopefully, and new ways of recycling and keeping this loop of circularity. For the corporates and for the investors, we're talking about business models. So can you, and we can talk just about that. But I do want to mention things like waste offsetting and carbon offsetting. And I know that both of you are doing things in this space, so maybe you can share a little bit what you do your product, what kind of business models you already the top of your regular business models.
Mm-hmm.
So about business models, I will share with you two interesting business models that we are actually operating now. One is in Kenya. In Kenya, we have a daughter company that is working in central Kenya. In this area, there are 1 million small farmers. They live from producing milk. They have 4 or 5 cows producing milk and sell it to a local cooperative. Those families use firewood for cooking. They buy actually firewood, and for cooking, the cost of the firewood gets to between $35 to $50 a month, which is expensive, and of course it's polluting. It's even creating respiration problem. And we created a business model for Kenya that we provide them a biogas system for $29 a month, and after 2 years they actually own it. If they're not satisfied with the device, after 6 months they get full money guaranteed. So it's a no-brainer. And it's also producing them liquid fertilizer that increase the yield. For us as a business, the challenge was, of course, to make it more affordable than the firewood, to make it the service, everything, the collection of the money to solve all this issue. And eventually on above the price, the monthly price we get, we are now approved in Kenya to receive the carbon credits. The carbon credits is actually doubling the income that we get from the farmer. It's not a simple process. We are going through a gold standard now. So this is one business model. And the second business model, I give 2 words about it. It's like, for example, what we are doing now with the Ministry of Defense. The IDF is paying around 100 million shekel for collecting waste every year. It's a lot. By putting HomeBiogas in the military bases, they can save half of the amount, and also to create hot water for the showers and for the kitchen. So they save both on collecting the waste and both on operation and cost of energy. So those are 2 business models that are very relevant to the discussion. So to make it the challenge is to make it more affordable than current solution, and of course to make it available, that it will be relevant for different sectors.
Yeah, I think these are 2 really crucial points that everyone should keep in mind while going into this space.
Affordable and available.
Yes, more affordable and available. Yeah. Tato, do you want to share about your work in this space?
Yes, in order to have an impact, you have to create a versatile solution. In our case, since we're talking about a material, we have to make sure that that material can be used almost seamlessly, like any other material that exists, and that performs exactly the same. Absolutely certified, safe to use, and as I said before, competitive. For us, that development took a long time. But once you reach that point, your material can stand head to head with all these amazing polypropylene, polyethylene, polyester, nylons, and PVCs that are basically the materials that the industry is using in the plastic realm. And once you have that, you can really make an impact. Bottom line is that today, some of our customers are Mercedes-Benz. The automotive industry, for example, is one of the tightest, most stringent certified industries. You need to go through very difficult standards. Imagine having a plastic material, new plastic material made entirely out of waste in a Mercedes car, in a luxury Mercedes car. And not one part, 28 parts made with UBQ material. That is awesome. That is unheard of. And it shows that we can make it. A lot of work, a lot of investment, a lot of thinking forward, a lot of daring. The McDonald's trays in Latin America, these trays, I hope I had one to show you, are made out of UBQ. So fast food chains are introducing UBQ. Pepsi, the big Pepsi, is working with us. All the pallets, all the boxes made with UBQ. These are some of the names of the many, many names that are already working with the company to introduce the material. What we needed is to make sure that the material is used immediately and in big volumes, because every ton that we will consume of UBQ, we will save carbon emissions. We will create a better environment. We will collect carbon credits that are also an additional asset for the business to grow. And the more UBQ grows, the more income, the more impact we can get into the planet. So the list of customers of our company today is remarkable. We're expanding the capacity of the plant here in Israel and building a huge plant in the Netherlands. And along the way, we hope to establish many, many other plants in different parts of the world so that the local waste of cities and the communities is used to create thermoplastic material that replaces polluting plastics and creates this circular solution by recycling it time and time again. And that is the kind of technologies that can really take us into the future. So yes, it is very important that the environment is supporting these technologies, that we have money, that the regulations are imposing these type of changes. US, for example, Europe is obliging companies and some other countries in the world to introduce recycled content materials in the products, in the plastic products. That means that there is a huge opportunity for recycling industries to come in. UBQ is considered 100% recycled content. So they not only want to buy UBQs, they need to buy UBQ. And that is what the business environment, the regulatory environment, the legal environment can help in supporting new technologies to come about. Okay, and that's what we're doing.
I love that Tato always ends with my next question. So you've mentioned regulations.
Yes.
And I think that many investors, especially generalist VCs, more traditional investors, and also founders, are very reluctant sometimes to get into this space because of the barrier, regulation, they take time and this and that. Can you speak about your experiences? Like maybe how do we leverage on the existing regulations, or maybe we should just, continue with our research and development, and what is the dynamic with the governance and the government? It is different from country to country. I'm not talking about Israel, like abroad. Can you share your experiences being around the block for a while?
Okay, so one of the biggest challenges for entrepreneurs is that bring new product, new solutions that are actually shaking the market is regulation. The waste management market hasn't been changed for, 200 years. Collecting the waste, put it in the landfill, lots of rules around it. So first of all, as an entrepreneur, I see myself as pioneer. And as a pioneer, I'm not waiting for regulation. I think if you are waiting for the regulation, we will not succeed. My way is to look for the cracks. Regulation, it's like a wall, and we need to look for cracks and enter through these cracks, make them holes, and then make them a door, and then make them a highway. This is our role as pioneers. We need to change the reality as we know it. It's consuming a lot of time. We created actually an international standard for household biogas. 8 years ago, I went to look for standard. There was no standard, so I decided to create one. Mm-hmm. And now there is an ISO standard for household biogas system. It only took 7 or 8 years, but now we have it. And this is just one example. Every country that we are entering, we are facing regulation. But the way to see it is to see it as a road bumper, not as a barrier. It's a road bumper, just slowing you down. But the good news in our field is that 2021 was kind of a turning point. Biden administration changed the whole market, is changing the market. 7 states in the US are forbidding to throw food waste that ends up in landfill. It's California, New Jersey, Vermont. This is unbelievable. The opportunities that is opening. A multifamily house in New Jersey cannot throw food waste to landfill. It must go to either recycling, biogas system, compost, UBQ. They need to find the right solution. So there is hope, changing, but don't wait for regulation. Change it.
Love it. Tato, anything else to add as we're closing up?
No, it's basically you want, once you have an idea, you have to move through it competitively. You cannot wait for subsidies, you cannot wait for regulation, you cannot wait for support of any kind. You just need to find the business model that makes sense and go with it. Eventually, the environment can change in your favor. In our case, it did. Basically, it did faster than we did. And sometimes I say we were training with our surfboard for to get the nice wave, and all of a sudden we got a tsunami. That's what's happening here. It's a tsunami. I mean, the world is now invigorated to make a change, and that is a situation that really can support this ecosystem of creativity, innovation that you have in Israel. By the way, UBQ developed all this technology in Israel with an Israeli company that have plants all over the world. But I do tell you that I don't think there is a better place to develop a technology than in this country. The ecosystem of innovation and the work that the government, the academy, industry, and startups create together is quite remarkable. So I do, again, since we're in a forum of innovation and creativity, there's a lot of space to find the crack. That crack that will take you into the future. Don't wait for anyone to impose something, because it can never happen. But if you are in control of the destiny of your company, in this sector you can go to places that you never dreamed before. Our experience after 10 years is just absolutely remarkable, and the kind of people that want to work in these companies is also typically the best. In our case, by the way, our team in UBQ is absolutely remarkable. It's not only that they're committed to the company, they are committed to the concept, to the ecosystem that we're trying to build, and that creates an enormous energy that feeds us into the future. So this is the place to start.
Yeah. And I think we saw 2 really great case studies for companies that, like you said, and founders, obviously, they didn't wait to just make that someone will change something. They just saw the opportunity and the cracks and had a lot of patience and perseverance. And I think both investors and the founders who are like hesitating about this field, and it looks scary, and you need infrastructures and capital and all of this. We have 2 great examples of how to do it. And thank you very much. I had a great time. I hope to see more companies in this space. Thank you.